Republican Representative Tony Gonzales of Texas announced his retirement from Congress on Monday, citing an affair with a staff member under his supervision that led to her death by suicide. Gonzales had already indicated he would not seek re-election after admitting to the misconduct. The House Republican leadership urged him to step down even before this latest announcement. The House Ethics Committee has since initiated an investigation into Gonzales's actions, which violated ethics rules prohibiting sexual relationships between lawmakers and their employees. Representative Tony Gonzales served 3 terms in Congress representing Texas. His decision to retire comes amid increasing scrutiny over ethical violations by political figures. This recent event highlights the ongoing challenges faced by lawmakers in maintaining public trust and accountability. With his retirement, Gonzales ends a tenure marked by this significant scandal, leaving questions about the broader implications for ethics in politics and the steps being taken to address such issues within Congress. The Trump family's business dealings are expanding internationally, raising concerns about potential conflicts of interest during President Donald Trump's second term. Ventures include cryptocurrency investments and real estate projects in countries like Qatar and Vietnam. Critics argue these international deals could influence U.S. policy decisions, compromising the integrity of presidential decision-making and democratic norms. Sales of governance tokens from World Liberty Financial have raised $2 billion for the Trump family. Meanwhile, a Binance founder received a pardon despite admitting to failing to prevent criminal activities on his platform. Eric Trump and Donald Jr., along with the Trump Organization, continue to expand their business interests abroad since President Trump's second term began in 2026. Ventures include deals in authoritarian or one-party states like Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The White House and the Trump Organization deny any ethical issues related to these international business dealings. However, as presidential ethics have traditionally required avoiding even the appearance of profiting from office, critics argue that President Trump's approach is unprecedented and dangerous for democracy. The United States has initiated a naval blockade of ports along the Strait of Hormuz, following unsuccessful peace negotiations between Washington and Tehran. President Donald Trump warned that any Iranian vessel approaching the blockade would be immediately eliminated, emphasizing Iran's need to abandon its highly enriched uranium program. Vice President J.D. Vance stated that the ball is now in Iran's court, stressing that the U.S.'s proposal represents a final offer on red lines and demands. The blockade targets roughly 20% of global oil trade through the Strait of Hormuz. This raises concerns among countries like China about potential economic impacts. The failed peace talks aimed to turn a fragile ceasefire into a broader agreement but ended without concrete progress. This move is seen as an escalation in tensions between the two nations, with Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi asserting that Tehran negotiated in good faith. With the imposition of this blockade, there are fears of retaliatory actions from Iran and potential global economic repercussions due to control over significant oil trade routes through the Strait of Hormuz. President Donald Trump accused Pope Leo XIV of supporting Iran's nuclear weapons development in recent statements. However, fact-checkers have debunked this claim based on the Pope's consistent stance against nuclear arms and for peace through dialogue. Pope Leo has repeatedly emphasized global disarmament and peaceful solutions to conflicts. On March 5, he called for nations to renounce weapons and engage in diplomacy rather than war. In June 2025, the Holy See signed and ratified the United Nations Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. This underscores its commitment to nuclear disarmament. The controversy highlights a growing divide between political leaders like Trump and religious figures such as Pope Leo on how to approach global security issues. This tension has been evident in previous criticisms from Trump regarding Iran-US relations since early 2026. This claim by President Trump is contrary to the Pope's documented advocacy against nuclear weapons and his calls for international dialogue to achieve peace. The Holy See continues its diplomatic efforts to promote disarmament globally, independent of political pressures. A federal judge has dismissed President Donald Trump's defamation lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal over an article that detailed his alleged connection to Jeffrey Epstein. The ruling comes after a series of legal challenges from Trump regarding unproven allegations tied to Epstein. The case centered on a sexually suggestive letter written for Epstein's 50th birthday, which reportedly bears Trump's signature. The former president denies writing the letter and has consistently argued that the article damaged his reputation, and that's despite this dismissal. Trump's legal team said they will refile the lawsuit in an effort to continue challenging the story's implications on his past relationships with Epstein. This move underscores ongoing efforts by Trump to manage public perception around these controversial allegations. The ruling marks another setback for Trump in navigating the fallout from documents and stories related to Epstein's circle. This highlights the legal and reputational challenges he continues to face. The next steps will be closely watched as both sides prepare their strategies moving forward. Representative Eric Swalwell announced his resignation from the U.S. House of Representatives on Thursday, following serious sexual misconduct allegations. The California Democrat dropped his gubernatorial campaign and acknowledged making mistakes against his wife, but maintains his innocence regarding the broader accusations. The House Ethics Committee had launched an investigation into the claims after multiple women accused Swalwell of inappropriate behavior over several years. This includes unsolicited explicit messages and unwanted touching. One woman also alleged rape when she was incapacitated, and another instance after she said no to intercourse. Swalwell's resignation comes amid a growing push for stricter ethics standards in Congress. Representative Teresa Leger Fernandez of New Mexico, who heads the Congressional Women's Caucus, called for urgent reform of the ethics process to make it easier for women staffers to report misconduct. With Swalwell stepping down and another lawmaker facing potential expulsion, there is now renewed focus on improving accountability measures within the legislative body. The complexity of expelling a member of Congress requires a 2/3 majority vote. This makes such actions rare but increasingly debated given recent allegations. President Donald Trump's tax law introduced new federal income tax breaks for tips and overtime wages. However, many states have not adopted these changes, as the April 18th tax filing deadline approaches. Millions of workers are navigating a patchwork of state policies that diverge from federal guidelines. 41 states tax wages and salaries, while 8 do not levy income taxes on earnings: Alaska, Florida, New Hampshire, Nevada, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Wyoming. Colorado offers deductions for tips but not overtime. Arizona allows these deductions based on an executive order from Governor Katie Hobbs, pending legislative action. The discrepancies mean workers must carefully review both federal and state-specific guidelines to understand their tax liabilities. This variation can lead to confusion and potential financial impacts for taxpayers who are entitled to federal breaks but miss out on state-level benefits. As states continue to evaluate whether to align with the federal changes, taxpayers should consult local tax guidance or seek professional advice to ensure compliance and maximize their returns. More than 1,000 workers in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, took to the streets on Monday to protest against soaring oil prices and demand higher wages. The government recently increased diesel and gasoline prices by 37% and 29% respectively, intensifying economic hardships for local residents. Workers at the Metropolitan Industrial Park, known as Sonapi, along with other local residents, gathered outside the industrial park's gates to voice their frustrations. They have not received a salary increase since 2023 and now face daily challenges in affording basic necessities. A gallon of gas now costs more than Haiti's minimum daily wage. Marc Jean-Pierre, a factory worker earning 685 Haitian gourds, $5.23 per day, highlighted the strain these price hikes have placed on his household. He noted that he can no longer afford public transportation and walks for an hour each way to work to save money. A gallon of gas is higher than our minimum salary, Jean-Pierre emphasized during the protest. The workers' demands reflect broader economic pressures facing Haiti, including gang violence and escalating poverty levels. Protesters are calling on government officials to take immediate action to alleviate their financial burdens and address the urgent need for wage increases. With rising oil prices continuing to impact local economies, the protesters vow to remain in the streets until their voices are heard by authorities. The situation highlights growing unrest over economic conditions and underscores the urgency of addressing these issues to stabilize the country's economy and improve living standards for its citizens. Democratic candidate Eric Swalwell has dropped out of the race for California governor, citing sexual misconduct allegations. His withdrawal adds urgency to Democrats' efforts to unite behind a single candidate in time for June's primary election. Swalwell's departure leaves Katie Porter and Tom Steyer as potential frontrunners within the Democratic field. The move raises concerns among Democrats that their fractured candidacy pool could allow Republicans to dominate the general election. Given California's unique top-two primary system, political analysts warn this development could signal a historic setback for Democrats in one of the bluest states. Eric Skickler, a political science professor at UC Berkeley, described it as an unforced error if Democrats fail to rally around a strong candidate. The immediate challenge for Democrats is to consolidate support and ensure a top-two finish ahead of June's primary deadline. The race remains tight with Republican frontrunners Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco leading in polls, despite ongoing intra-party competition among Republicans. Voters are urged to pay close attention as the primary election approaches, given the high stakes for both parties in this critical gubernatorial contest. Zohran Mamdani, New York City's youngest mayor, celebrated his first 100 days in office with significant achievements. He secured $1.20 billion for childcare funding and outlined plans to establish city-owned grocery stores. Mamdani's campaign promise of free childcare is progressing as he allocates funds for 2,000 free spots by fall 2026, growing to 12,000 children within 4 years. New York State Governor Kathy Hochul has committed funding for the initial phase, but sustainability beyond 2 years remains uncertain. Additionally, Mamdani announced plans to open a city-owned grocery store in East Harlem by the end of his term, projected to cost $30 million. This initiative aims to provide affordable food options for lower-income communities. Despite these successes, challenges persist with other campaign goals like rent stabilization and faster free bus services. The mayor faces hurdles due to state-level constraints on implementing certain policies without additional support from Governor Hochul. Mamdani's relationship with President Trump has been unexpectedly cordial since taking office, avoiding the direct conflict seen during his election campaign. This cooperation could influence federal funding and policy decisions affecting New York City. A 20-year-old man from Texas has been charged with attempted murder and federal felony charges following an attack near the San Francisco home of Sam Altman, CEO of AI company OpenAI. Federal prosecutors say Daniel Mornogama threw a Molotov cocktail at Altman's residence on Friday evening. Mornogama is also accused of attempting to damage property at OpenAI's headquarters using a chair and incendiary devices. Security personnel reported that he tried to set fire to the exterior gate at Altman's home before fleeing. Later attempted similar actions at the company's San Francisco headquarters. The attack comes amid heightened scrutiny over AI technology and its societal impacts. In response, OpenAI condemned any acts of violence against executives in the tech industry. This emphasizes the need for peaceful debate on AI advancements. Authorities recovered documents from Mornogama that allegedly advocate for violence against AI executives and investors. No injuries were reported during the incidents. Legal proceedings are ongoing, with Mornogama facing multiple state charges, including attempted murder. The case highlights growing tensions surrounding rapid technological development and public discourse about its implications. In late February, more than 1,400 actors, directors, filmmakers signed an open letter opposing the merger between Paramount and Warner Bros. Discovery. Signatories include well-known figures such as Emma Thompson, Ben Stiller, Javier Bardem, and Rose Byrne. The letter argues that the consolidation of these two major studios would harm competition in a struggling entertainment industry already impacted by the pandemic and labor strikes in 2023. with the merger valued at around $111 billion. It is expected to reduce the number of United States film studios from 5 to 4, potentially limiting opportunities for creators and increasing costs for audiences. These transactions further consolidate an already concentrated media landscape, said Damon Lindelof, a signatory known for shows like Watchmen and Lost. He added that such mergers mean fewer movies and TV shows, leading to fewer jobs in the industry. The deal faces opposition, not just from industry professionals but also calls for regulatory intervention. California Attorney General Rob Bonta is among those being urged by critics to block the merger due to concerns about reduced competition and job opportunities across production ecosystems. Despite these objections, Paramount's guidance is committed to maintaining both studios as standalone entities while increasing content output if approved. The company argues that the merger will allow for more bold ideas and support for talent at various career stages, strengthening the global storytelling industry. The future of this significant consolidation remains uncertain pending shareholder approval later in April and regulatory review by government bodies.